Hello, everyone, and welcome to Competitively Viable, the weekly MTG News podcast made by a few competitive players who thought they could make a podcast. I'm John, and joining me, first off, is William.
Hello.
And then we have my brother, Luke.
What's up?
Alright, so today's going to be a bit of a shorter episode, mostly because there's not much news, but also because Kamigawa Neon Dynasty came out on Arena today. So we're mostly just going to be talking about the standard challenger deck lists that were posted. So why don't we just dive right into that? Starting. So let's see. So what are the four archetypes, William?
Uh, the four archetypes that they have are Mono White Aggro, Dimir Control, Gruul Stompy, and Rakdos Vampires.
Yeah. So these decks, some of them are a little better and higher in the metagame than others, but I think considering standard now, I think they all have a shot. And obviously, Wizards has to make these deck lists ahead of time, so they can't predict everything perfectly. But these are some of the. I think Mono White Aggro, in my opinion, is probably the best of these decks. What do you guys think?
I mean, each of the decks have some quirky things about them, like just in Mono White Aggro has like Monk of the Open Hand. But I mean that is sometimes played, but it's a 4 of and like Code Spell Cleric. I just think they're like not top tier.
Well, they're not trying to be top tier. These decks are meant to get you to FNM and play and compete, but they're also not meant to, go and play at, a mythic championship.
I think the mono white deck actually I think these challenger decks are supposed to be able to be played and then upgraded later. Um, I think the mono white deck actually did a pretty good job of that. It is like more of the older double spell version running Monk the Open Hand, Code Spell Cleric, and Clarion Spirit, which we don't see as much anymore. However, these are pretty easy to take out if you wanted to just switch them for some cards that you get that see more play now. Like Adeline. Oh, what else? There. Guess we can just pull up the actual deck list here. Um.
You've got
Well,
cards like Sun Gold Sentinel and Thalia that see a bit
Yeah,
of
I did
play.
notice that there's two Sun Gold Sentinels in the sideboard, so that's okay. But yeah,
And I guess the
Thalia.
deck
Well, wait,
list.
is Thalia? Thalia is in the.
Yeah,
There's two Thalias. You might want to be adding more of that.
it
Um,
is.
so something that I did.
Brutal Cathar is something that I don't think is in the list.
Okay.
That would be probably a pretty solid card. As well as just more like Portable Hole. Uh, Hopeful Initiates in a lot of the mono white aggro decks now. But yeah, it's a very upgradable deck, I think which is good.
Well, the as it said it was made before. It does have a very weird card in it, and that is Faceless Haven, since that was banned a bit ago. So now it's
Yeah, so that is
less upgradable.
a bit weird. And they did release or they did say something about that. The mono white aggro standard challenger deck set to release on April 1st, 2022 will contain 3 copies of the now standard banned Faceless Haven. So what they're going to do about that is if you are running this exact 60 card deck in this exact 15 card sideboard, you are allowed to play Faceless Haven. As long as there are no changes made to it. You take out or swap any cards, upgrade the deck at all, and Faceless Haven is no longer legal. Do you guys have any thoughts on this? Is this weird? Is this fine?
I think it's weird. I believe a long time ago, before I started playing, any of us started playing, there was a deck called Cawblade running around in Standard, and it had one of its main cons was Stoneforge Mystic, uh, and that had to be banned in standard. But a little while after that, they released some dual decks that had 4 Stoneforge Mystics in them, and they had the uh, exact same rules for you couldn't change the deck list. You could only use it as is. So this isn't a new thing, but um, it is interesting.
Yeah, I think I can understand this would happen. They only recently banned Faceless Haven, and they had these deck lists finished a while ago. Considering the fact that we knew what the archetypes were, probably 3 weeks ago now. Um, so yeah, this doesn't seem that bad, and the mono white aggro deck I kind of like. But let's look at Dimir Control now. This is a deck that I'm a little less interested in. What are your guys' thoughts on Dimir Control? As for me at least, I think there's not as many of the creatures that are in the some of the more top tier versions. The top tier versions are running cards like Nighthawk Scavenger and Liar Disciple of the Drowned. These decks are running Graveyard Trespasser, which doesn't show up in any of the top tier lists. And this deck really seems to be kind of just a blue-black control-y pile, but not top tier that much. Do you guys getting the same vibe?
Yeah, I'm kind of confused though why they put this in the sideboard. Saw it coming.
Well, there's 3 in the main board, so that's probably why.
Didn't see that. Yep.
Yep. Correction. I said it was in a dual deck. It was actually in the War of Attrition event deck.
I guess that makes that makes sense.
Yep. About this blue-black control deck, I play control, and overall, I don't know. Some of these cards wouldn't aren't the best choices. This seems like, a pile I'd throw together out of my uncommons I'd get like after I don't know,
After a
for some
pre-release or
sort of
whatever.
after a pre-release, or like for some random arena midweek magic, Friday night magic
Yeah,
event
Yeah.
it kind of
type
does look
thing.
like a souped up like limited deck.
Yep.
And well, there's that. It does seem like there's just the list seems to be mostly just a lot of common and just like common and uncommon disruption, with a few board wipes and a bit of draw, but I don't like it isn't running that great of interaction or card draw. I guess it does have 4 memory deluge, and then the mana base is pretty bad, I'd say.
All of these mana bases aren't amazing. It does have 4 Shipwreck Marsh and 4 Ice Tunnel. But
True.
one of the other main things of note is it does have 2 Hall of the Storm Giants.
That is a card that I think is good. Though the Evolving Wilds and Ice Tunnel are a little more questionable as they enter the battlefield tapped.
Also, one questionable thing is it's got 2 Blood Vial Purveyors in the sideboard. Now, Blood Token seems like something that a control deck would want to stay ahead in the game, and you don't want your opponents to have them because you're eking out card advantage and uh, just overall card quality. Uh, Blood
Yeah,
Vial
this
Purveyor doesn't seem.
looking at the sideboard does seem to be just kind of it does seem to be just a bunch of random cards.
Yeah,
This
you've
deck
got
just really seems pretty random.
Mischievous Catgeist is another one. I mean, this
Yeah,
wasn't even
that one's
playable in
really weird.
limited. This one wasn't even playable in limited. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the main deck, Parasitic Grasp is the one thing that I'm confused, quite confused about, because it is like a lightning helix type effect, but only for humans. If you can get it off against some humans, it's good, but like otherwise, it's like a bad murder.
I don't
Um,
know why they just. I feel like this would probably be more on the sideboard, and then they should just run maybe Blood Chief's Thirst in the main.
Yeah. I was looking at Blood Chiefs first, and I think that's a pretty good card.
Yep.
Anyway, yes, this control deck does seem kind of random, but at least the archetype is there. Whereas the next few decks are not really. Gruul Stompy is the next deck, and this is not that much in the meta. However, Temur midrange is, and that's just this deck plus the well, it's basically a red green Stompy deck plus some counter spells. So that I guess would be comparable, but looking at this deck, it doesn't seem amazing.
uh, I think I think it looks better than the blue black control deck for sure.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yes. I still think this would probably be beat by the mono white deck, but it does have some solid cards. Ranger class I think is definitely worth something.
yep. It it's worth about 8 to 8 not $8, $7 to $8. Um,
Yeah, that's pretty
and
good.
another notable inclusion is the one of Goldspan Dragon, which is a $32 card.
I do wonder what's so like is that card like played in Pioneer or something? What's up with that card that makes it
Um,
so expensive?
well, it
Mythic Dragon Commander fun?
uh yep, from what I can see, it is really only it's really only played in standard and commander. After that, I'm
Though,
just filtering through some deck lists. It's really like you've got like a little bit of historic play and brawl play, but
Neither of those are paper formats, so
neither of
that
those are
doesn't really
paper
apply.
formats.
although
And
in like normally, like when I just log on to MTG Arena, I do see Goldspan Dragon quite a bit, but that was before Control ended. Um, I think there should have been a considerable drop when like Dragons and Control were out. And in general, the deck, I mean, it has some weird cards, but like to be fair, it is somewhat okay. It looks like a commander deck they tried to put in standard almost. Like that new player's commander deck almost.
It does seem pretty high on the curve, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like it would be good if they substituted maybe Tovolar's Huntmaster or some other expensive card for maybe Prosperous Innkeeper, which is an
like
uncommon
some,
in a standard set.
yep, or some like Kazandu Mammoths or something. Really, uh, the Temur mid-range decks are like loaded with, uh, well, as you said, they have Prosperous Innkeeper, but they also have the removal is a little bit better, and they have other cards like Reckless Stormseeker and um, Moonveil Regent, which although isn't high, which isn't low on the curve, it's cheaper than what you know Tovolar's Huntmaster or
Well, yeah, I'm just looking at this and I'm just seeing uh 8 4 drops, 4 3 drops, or 8 4 and above,
um
and I feel like that might be a bit much. And
yeah,
4 Snakeskin Veils seems a bit weird.
yeah. I think they for the snakeskin veils, I think they could take that out, maybe put in a few more thundering rebukes, because that's a somewhat playable card.
Yep.
Burning Hands, I've seen it. Just a bit more removal, I feel because I feel like that deck might just struggle against some other decks.
Overall, I don't think this is the worst of the decks that they've put together.
Oh,
It's certainly
definitely not.
better than
Yes.
I think this deck would be pretty. I think this deck would be pretty solid if you took out maybe some of the more maybe a couple Snakeskin Veils and Tovolar's Huntmaster or something, and just put in 4 Prosperous Innkeepers, and I think this deck would be pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm with John.
it's not as bad as the Rakdos Vampires deck, though.
Yeah, and that will be and I guess that's a pretty good segue into the Rakdos Vampires deck. This was a attempt at a prediction from Wizards, and they kind of just missed. This
Vampire
this is
Rakdos
kind of just running a lot of the vampire cards from the Innistrad sets and not much else. Kind of feels like the kind of thing it would be like a here's a all commons and uncommons deck for the new players to unmatched arena to play.
Yeah, it does somewhat feel like that. Looking at the top tier, if I can call it that, Rakdos Vampires deck, which according to the MTG Goldfish metagame page, saw some considerable play in the past 90 days. It is looking a little bit. It looks mostly good. A few of the key things that I'm noticing are it doesn't have any Anyes in the main deck. On it has them in the sideboard instead, which I think is strange. It also is playing 4 Immerstern Predator when at least the most recent version and some of the other versions of Rakdos Vampires definitely aren't playing Immerstern Predator. Other than that, it looks okay, but then again, it's still not top tier.
And I'm just looking at it, and it's I don't think any of these cards are considerably an insane amount of money. And I think the other decks, if it's going around the same money line, it's gonna be a lot of money for this deck that I don't think is gonna do much.
Yeah,
and it's just a pile of uncommons and commons in general, I think.
This deck's value just doesn't really seem to be there. Voldaren Bloodcaster is $3 for a playset. Voldaren Epicure is 20 cents each. Blood Tithe Harvester and Vampire Socialite are both in the 25 to 50 cents range. Really, all of these cards. Florian is a bit more, but not much. Really,
The
none
most
of these cards
expensive
are that
card in this
expensive.
Mostly
deck.
it's just Blightstep pathway.
The 2 Blightstep pathways are probably the.
I think it's the 2 Den of the Bugbears.
Oh, possibly.
Yeah, those are I believe those are the 2 most expensive cards in this deck, coming in at about $7, $7
$7
to $8
each. Yeah.
each. Yeah.
And the other weird thing is that it's running 4 Bloodfell Caves, which doesn't seem great in an aggressive deck.
Yeah.
I mean, because this deck is running Voldaren Epicures, it's running Vampire Socialites. This deck wants to be hitting hard and early. So having a tap land that gains you a life just does not seem to be where you want to be.
Again, these are pre-constructed decks, so they can't be amazing.
True.
But the Gruul Stompy deck, the only dual lands it had were four slow lands, and that's it. The
I guess yeah, that's a good point. 2 down the bugbear, 2 blight step pathway is it's pretty good. I mean, I guess did this had I guess the Gruul deck did have 2 layer the Hydra. Um,
yeah,
but I guess this has 3 Voldarin estate. Not sure how good that is.
it seems
It's
good
only a
when every
dollar. Not
creature.
great.
Yeah, it seems good when all of your creatures are
Yeah,
vampires.
when you're playing a vampire deck, it does seem pretty good. Yeah, so this deck did seem to be kind of a whiff. It just the value doesn't seem to really be there.
And I'm looking at it. It doesn't even have like a Sorin either. I think that could bump it up, but that is a few dollars. But I'm looking at it, and it's like at most this deck I don't know is 70-80 bucks for a powered down version. I think.
Yeah, this deck doesn't really seem to be as quite as worth it as a lot of these other decks, which kind of brings me to the next thing I want to talk about. It was like just kind of like ranking these decks. If you were to buy one of these challenger decks, which of the 4 challenger decks would you buy?
Mono what aggro all day.
I think I'm with you.
Personally, I think mono white aggro is probably the best, but I would go for Gruul Stompy just because I like the bit of the more mid-rangey feel of the deck.
I do think Gruul Stompy probably has the best value of all of these. I'm not sure about that, but just looking at the deck, I think it probably does.
Yeah.
Shipwreck Marsh is quite a bit. I believe Shipwreck Marsh and Memory Deluge are more than you think.
Really?
Shipwreck Marsh is
Oh, I have a memory daily.
uh $12 on Card Kingdom and about $8 for the TCG player market price.
Oh wow, that is quite a bit. Memory
So
Deluge is like $5. So that's something, but
yeah,
still not amazing.
it has 4.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, so I think from a value perspective, I think Gruul is probably the best. From a playability perspective, I think you'd probably go mono white, and then maybe you could probably pay $5 to get some pretty decent upgrades, and then if you wanted, you could get it to probably almost top tier with $30.
Yeah,
yeah.
although I still am not a fan that how it's like you have to take out 3 cards in the deck that make it better deck. You have to take out the 3 faceless havens to upgrade at all, which is kind of weird.
Yeah. That one doesn't seem too bad though. Yes, Faceless Haven is a good card, but it's I think it's still worth it to get the upgrades over some of the other cards in the deck. But yeah, I think this deck, I think that deck looks solid.
Yep.
So yeah, if you're gonna pick it up, pick a deck up, we would recommend the red green deck or the mono white deck. Though if you really like control, Dimir is there, and I guess if you like vampires, you can get vampires. Is that just the is that the summary of this?
Yeah, I think so.
You have to really like vampires to get vampires though.
Yeah.
And plus we had a whole vampire set, and that was like last set. And if you don't already have a vampires deck and you like vampires, then
Yeah. All right. So now I think we're gonna go on to the only other thing we're gonna talk about today, and that is that buried in the middle of the MTG Arena State of the Game notes, there was one specific tiny sentence that says, "We know this is something players want, and it's something we want to provide, so we're actively looking into how we'll support an additional Eternal format." Because they were saying that they know that people want a true to tabletop non-rotating format. Does this mean that they're just wanting to do they're looking into putting Pioneer on Arena still, or do you think that ship has sailed?
I mean, I don't know what other Eternal format they're gonna put on Arena. They say just a sentence after that they're not gonna put in a separate historic queue without the digital only cards. So, I mean, you're gonna have what, modern? That seems like a long
Yeah,
way
you might.
away.
I mean, to get to modern, you got to put in Pioneer first. So,
Yep.
I mean, and I think personally, from like a business perspective, putting in Pioneer is probably a good idea because then, I mean, I'd be spending wild cards on building a Pioneer deck alongside a historic deck, right? So I think they would get it's not just, oh, we're putting in a bunch of work for just to make players happy or whatever. I think they're generally getting stuff out of adding Pioneer to Magic Arena.
Although, then again, that could take a few people off Magic Online, which is not that popular, only to the like original Magic players, I guess. But I feel like Magic Online, you have to pay for it. So if they still want people to pay a lot of money for it, they might want to just keep it on Magic Online for now.
My guess is that yeah, Pioneer isn't popular enough on Magic Online to make it so that moving those few players who actually played on Magic Online over to Arena is actually that much of a loss. I think they'd probably be gaining more from having it on a more widely accessible platform that is Arena. So, yeah, I don't know what else they would do other than Pioneer, but yeah, hopefully, I mean, it would be definitely nice to have Pioneer on Magic Arena.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. Pioneer would be great on Magic Arena. I mean, as I said, we don't really have any other Eternal format. And if you want to have something that you can play on MTG Arena and in paper, you kind of have to have a standard deck. And standard is just kind of going.
Standards. I don't want to
Standard's
say it's
good.
dying, but it is definitely falling by the wayside next to Alchemy and
Historic
historic
Commander.
on Arena, and then just
Commander.
you might as well just play a different format in paper.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking this might be almost a last-ditch effort with the challenger deck, so just throw standard back into the metagame.
I think they know that it's very easy to make the challenger decks, and people will buy them because there's value there. So I think they know that this is basically just free money that's sitting there, so they might as well do it. But yeah, I don't think they're going to be supporting standard for too much longer.
Though
Yep.
actually,
They did
I
have
might,
they did have the Pioneer Challenger decks not too long ago.
Oh, I would be
just a couple of months.
I would be excited for more Pioneer Challenger decks or modern Challenger decks. If they made modern Challenger decks, that would be amazing.
I'd like to revise actually my answer on the challenger decks. I'm looking at it, and I'm actually thinking the blue-black control deck actually might have some value. Just looking at Hullbreaker Horror and Imrith, they're a few bucks each. Like Hullbreaker Horror, $7 or $8, and Imrith is $5. So I think it's possible that actually might have a lot of value too. So I think they actually did do it strategically. Now that I'm looking at it, they have somewhat equal value.
Mm-hmm.
Mirror Control and Gruul Stompy do have somewhat equal value, but Gruul Stompy is overall just a better deck.
Definitely.
Yes.
Anyway, I think that's basically everything that we have for this week. And Kamigawa Neon Dynasty is out on Arena, so that is going to be pretty interesting. So I think we're going to call it a show for there. Thanks everybody for watching. If you want to find William, you have a baking YouTube channel. Where can we find you?
Yeah, I mostly do the editing, but it's the odds and ends.
Yep, I will put a link in the description. Uh, their chocolate chip, basically everything is very good. I have tried a few recipes myself. And Luke, where can we find you?
On Where the Lotus Grows. It is linked on my brother's channel. And I hope to be posting sometime this month about Kamigawa and Neon Dynasty's some fun deck that I can find.
Yep.
With it.
So if you want to, I'll put that link in the description as well. So if you want to find either Luke or William, go down to the description. And while you're down there, leave a comment. What kind of things do you want us to talk about? And also leave a like. If you watched till the end, you must have liked it, or else you would have clicked away. So yeah, thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.